Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online series 11 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a really interesting team submitted to me by a viewer, so huge thank you to Mateus for sending this in. I have linked a very in-depth team report written by them down in the description below. So yeah, this just really caught my eye because it features a lot of fun Pokemon and sets that I have not used in a very long time, or really ever. The general idea behind this team is that it's designed to enable Celesteela and Entei, and you've got Pheromosa with coaching and speed swap. So the general premise is that you'll use the Pheromosa to give Celesteela and Entei attack and defense boosts via coaching, and then you can also potentially make them super fast with speed swap. Physical Celesteela is a set that I think is really intriguing. Normally when people see Celesteela, they assume, either like a bulky set, maybe with leftovers and Leech Seed, or a potential like special set with Meteor Beam, full offense with special attacks. Physical Celesteela, on the other hand, is a little bit more underused, and as a result, you can really catch opponents off guard. So often players will try to deal with Celesteela by either, setting up a light screen with Grimmsnarl, for example, or going for Eerie Impulse, and you have the element of surprise here where they basically just waste an attack and you could potentially just knock them out in return. Evolve Celesteela, really interesting, and it gets access to a very diverse set of attacks, actually, but, one of the main problems is that it's pretty slow, and it also doesn't deal that much damage, and so that's where Pheromosa is really the perfect partner for it, where not only can you make it faster via speed swap, but you can also give it, boosts via coaching. So a really fun combo is to go for coaching on a Celesteela on turn 1, pick up a knockout onto whatever's not Dynamax in your opponent's end, get another beast boost immediately, and then just speed swap turn 2, and you just have this absolutely amazing, powerful Celesteela. And the thing is, your opponents can only Dynamax one Pokemon at a time, and this Celesteela has really good coverage, right? And so the idea is that with this coverage, you can often just pick up like 3 KOs in 3 turns potentially against all of your opponent's non-Dynamax Pokemon, and kind of ignore their Dynamax Pokemon until the very end. To round out the team, you've also got classic Copaberry Amoonguss, Choice Scarf Ditto, which I really like because this allows you to copy their restricted Pokemon, and then a bulky weakness policy Kyogre. I think one thing that's pretty cool about this team is that it actually doesn't really rely on the restricted Pokemon in Kyogre too much. Kyogre is quite a nice partner, especially because Celesteela covers for a lot of its weaknesses, right? When people see Kyogre, they're normally conditioned to want to bring, for example, grass-type Pokemon, right? Like Rillaboom, Regieleki. And so Celesteela can potentially one-shot a lot of those Pokemon that often threaten Kyogre, and also get a Beast Boost as a result. This Kyogre is also bulkier, it's max HP with the weakness policy. So one thing that's interesting about this team is you have the room to not have as much speed investment on Pokemon like Celesteela and Kyogre because you have the speed swap on Pheromosa. So yeah, I think the Celesteela and Pheromosa combo in itself is really cool. Weakness policy Kyogre super neat as well. You're not going to be able to self-activate it very frequently. I mean, you could maybe go for a Seed Bomb from Celesteela onto it, but it's not going to happen too frequently. But the main thing is because you're so bulky, the policy will often get activated via, super effective attack from like Regieleki or Rillaboom, for example. And there are a lot of Pokemon in the format that can hit Kyogre for super effective damage. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting team. It's especially strong in best of 1 when your opponents don't expect the physical Celesteela with the coaching Pheromosa combination. But I think overall it just features some really neat sets, and so I'm excited to try it out. So thanks so much as always for watching. Once again, details are in the description below if you want to try it out yourselves. Huge thank you to the original creator once again for the team. If you enjoy, please share support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I'm curious when you think Gen 9 will be coming out. I still think it's going to be this fall, but, we obviously haven't heard anything yet, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Yeah, let's get started. All right, first match here, and we are up against Casti, who is a very well-known player from Spain, using Gastrodon, Zacian, Landorus, Rotom-H, Amoonguss, and Grimmsnarl. They have Gastrodon, which obviously isn't amazing for Kyogre. Ditto for copying here is pretty valuable. Kind of like Celesteela, but it's mainly Grimmsnarl I'm worried about. Just any shenanigans from that. If I were him, I'd probably play towards Amoonguss plus Rotom as a lead. Amoonguss plus Rotom. I don't have max Rockfall here on Entei, meaning I can't deal that much damage to Rotom. I'm thinking Pheromosa Celesteela. Ditto. And then Kyogre. Mainly because, like, we have Max Rockfall on the Celesteela. I don't love Entei as the max option here because, like, it kind of gets wrecked by the Landorus. And I can't even deal that much damage to Rotom. Whereas Celesteela walls Landorus really hard. I can also just go for coaching into a Max Rockfall potentially onto the Rotom slot, if that's what comes out. My main question here is basically what is the Grimmsnarl? Because if it's Trick Full Incense or Trick Lagging Tail, both are really bad for us. Honestly, the play I want to make turn 1 is just coaching into Celesteela, Dynamax, and then just Max Rockfall. Because I'm nervous about a turn 1 Rotom... Turn 1 Rotom nasty plot if I ignore it, right? Like, let's say I target the Grimmsnarl slot. And also in this position, it's like, are you going to set up Light Screen, for example? So Rotom's not Dynamaxing, that's already generally a good start, just because if they're not protecting here, then we should just get the knockout onto it. But like I mentioned, it could be a trick onto Celesteela. But as long as it's not Trick Eject Button, I actually feel fine. I don't think the Assault Vest is super important here for him able to knock out Rotom on turn 1, since the the majority of the special damage on the team does come from Rotom. Okay, it's Light Screen, beautiful. And this is the plus of using physical Celesteela. So this should just be a knockout onto Rotom-H on turn 1. Okay. And it's just Thunderbolt, beautiful. Take that pretty well. No paralysis, fortunately, and now this is a +1 physical Max Rockfall, which should just get the one-hit knockout onto Rotom-H. Beautiful. Okay, so now I can coaching this next turn. I do lose my Focus Sash on the Pheromosa, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I think Rotom was by far the biggest offensive threat to us in this matchup, and now I'm at +2 attack, +1 defense already, and the remainder Pokemon in the back are primarily physical attackers, Zacian, Landorus-T. Gastrodon's not a worry for us at all because of the Celesteela set and Max Overgrowth. So yeah, that was a super solid turn 1. Gastrodon comes out now. We can actually just go for the Max Overgrowth onto it immediately. Should be Zacian as the final Pokemon, so that's where Ditto and Kyogre in the back for us are valuable. I don't mind going for Speed Swap now on a Celesteela, and then just Max Overgrowth on a Gastrodon. The reason I want to target Gastrodon here is because I don't want to get hit by a Yawn. And they're actually going to Dynamax Gastro. Okay, cool. I guess the question is whether or not a +2 Overgrowth here KOs Gastrodon Dynamax through Reflect. I wouldn't expect it to, but I also don't really need it to at this point, I think. We just had such a strong turn 1, and this is once again the beauty of the element of surprise, right? I think it's hard to expect a physical Max Rockfall turn 1 from Celesteela in that position. So yeah, it's going to be a Reflect, which is fine. I feel pretty confident about the end game if we're able to just like not lose too many resources right now, and I don't want them to actually get a free switch into Zacian immediately. Okay, it is going to be Rindo Berry on Gastrodon, but that's fine. I think they had to Dynamax here to survive. Plus, there's not really another good max option at this point in the game anyway, and Max Overgrowth still does over 50%, even with Rindo and Reflect. Cool. This will grant me a free switch in this next turn. I'd probably just want to go into Kyogre. It's going to be Max Quake, okay? Now that I've gotten the speed boost up, Pheromosa doesn't even faint. I think what I can do is just go for a coaching onto Celesteela and then a Max Steel Spike into Grimmsnarl. I wonder if it was appropriate to just KO Grimmsnarl there, because now it does get a potential third attack off, and that could be something like a Scary Face or a Thunder Wave, for example. I don't love the idea of allowing it to get speed control. But I was nervous about Gastrodon getting a Yawn off there potentially, so I just wanted to make sure that it doesn't get a potential Yawn off. Steel Spike and a Grimmsnarl now feels okay. Could switch Pheromosa out. I could protect it in this position. We are +2 attack, +1 defense. We should assume Sacred Sword, obviously, in the back. I think it's fine to give up Pheromosa here because it would give me a free switch into Zacian, so I'll just go for another coaching on a Celesteela. And then Steel Spike here in a Grimmsnarl. I'm mainly curious what other attacks Grimmsnarl has in this position. Gastro Max Guards, but that's fine. We never need to target it here. It is Scary Face, okay. That's what I was a little bit worried about. But I still feel okay about this because I've, like, first of all, Celesteela is still super bulky here, right? I'm gonna get the knockout onto the Grimmsnarl. Now, while I am slower, the question is, can you reliably knock out Celesteela? One of the other questions I have is whether or not, even with the scary face, like, we outspeed Gastrodon. Because if so, I can obviously just end the game with the Seed Bomb onto it. But it's another boost here on a Celesteela. I do think it would have been better to have just knocked out the Grimmsnarl rather than going for that Overgrowth. I don't know if I needed to be so afraid. But I guess the other thing is they had Rindo and they Dynamax. So if you don't Rindo or if you don't have Rindo or you don't Dynamax, then we do just get a one-hit KO. But I guess you almost always max Gastrodon there, right? Because you're always going to have Zacian in the back. Also, the fact that they went for the max Quake onto my end earlier was also pretty interesting. I think here I just give up the Pheromosa. I can always switch it out for another coaching. I don't think a Sacred Sword at +1 should KO Celesteela. And I actually forgot, we're only at -1 speed. Meaning I can just see. I should outspeed Gastrodon here. I'd be really surprised if I didn't. And I can actually make the Zacian slower. So I'm going to speed swap onto Zacian. Drop your speed that way. The thing is, I could see Gastrodon going for a double protect here, because that might be their win condition. But the thing is, I have Ditto, which will copy their Zacian in the back. Okay, they're just Behemoth Blading. I think we just win the game then, right? Because Celesteela should just KO Gastrodon here. There's no way my Assault Vest Celesteela is fainting to any attack from Gastrodon, and we're at, what, +3 attack at this point anyway? Alright, there's Seed Bomb. Beautiful. This was the perfect Celesteela game. And the main thing here is I think a physical Celesteela with the Assault Vest had a really good matchup. The one thing we had to worry about was a late game Dynamax Rotom. So the fact we eliminated Rotom just gave us such a huge advantage for the remainder of the game. Now I can just bring in Scarf Ditto, that's going to copy Zacian, and we should be good. So this was a game in which, like, I just really had a super strong turn one with the element of surprise, right? And that is the benefit of using a strategy like this where you can catch opponents off guard. Cassidy is a very good player, right? And so if we were just using like a standard team, I would say I'd be at a disadvantage relative to using a team like this where it's really hard to predict everything that's coming your way in a best of one. Yeah, we can just Stomping here. Especially with Scarf Ditto, there's not really much Zacian can do in this position. Okay, so there's Behemoth Blade. Will not get the knockout, but Stomping here should finish it off. Cool. We're actually faster than the Zacian still. Interesting. Given how little Behemoth Blade did there, and given the substitute, I wouldn't be surprised if Zacian were like super bulky. But yeah, this was like the perfect demonstration of how good Pheromosa plus Celesteela can be, right? The coaching was really valuable. Celesteela, once again, the element of surprise is so nice, especially against Grimmsnarl. I didn't even play it to the best of my ability here because it's not like I knocked out Grimmsnarl on turn 1. But if you are able to... One thing I could have done was just target Grimmsnarl, and I think if Rotom weren't the partner, I would have targeted it. But with Rotom, I just wanted to like aggressively try to deal damage to it. So, you know, I'd imagine if we were to play that matchup again, he would probably protect or switch Rotom out on turn 1, try to stall out my Dynamax, and then Dynamax Rotom in the late game. Now, the upside is that I had a Kyogre in the back to potentially deal with Rotom, and with Weakness Policy, it's like Max Lightning doesn't one-shot us, and then we can just get a +2 Policy Scald off to retaliate against the Rotom. But I think what made this game a lot easier for us, and it was basically, I think, nearly impossible to win. Like, he played the end game pretty well, right? But we just had such a huge advantage that there was not really much that he could do. So that's why in Pokemon, like, every turn really matters, and how sometimes in the team building process, like, the element of surprise can give you a major advantage and allow you to just win a game instantly. So yeah, that's exactly what the Pheromosa Celesteela core is designed to do, so let's just keep it going. Alright, next match here, and we are running into some really cool teams. Kyogre, Gothitelle, Rillaboom, A-Marowak, Pelipper, and Seismitoad. I think this is definitely a Celesteela matchup, but the question is in what order? Pheromosa Celesteela still feels fine to me, because even if you go like Pelipper Seismitoad or Kyogre Seismitoad, I can just like coach you into max Rockfall or max Overgrowth. It would feel very weird to not bring Kyogre into this matchup, but it's also like, one of the cool things about this team is that your restricted is actually not very important because it's like so heavily centered around Pheromosa plus Entei or Celesteela. Like Ditto is always the, you know, strong Pokemon to bring out. I mean, I think it's fine to just go Pheromosa, Celesteela, Kyogre, Ditto. The question is like whether or not I'd want to bring Amoonguss in this one. It's obviously valuable for Spore, and I also have Pollen Puff, but the lack of a Grass-type attack like Giga Drain or Grass Knot or Energy Ball means that I can't actually deal good damage into Seismitoad or the Kyogre. Could be valuable for a Spore, but then I'd have to give up a Ditto or Kyogre. I don't really love giving up either of those. Especially because this is max HP Kyogre, so... You know, because we have Bulk, we can take a Grassy Glide better than no Bulk Kyogre. And if we were able to, you know, the main thing that I'm worried about is the Rillaboom. And potential max overgrowth from Seismitoad, since it does get access to Grass-type attacks. But I think AV Celesteela deals well with both the physical and the special Seismitoad sets. I'm going to go with Kyogre and Gothitelle. Now, my one fear about this lead... Well, I have two fears, I guess. The first one is just Blind Hypnosis from the Gothitelle. Turn 1 here is also really interesting, right? If you're my opponent, you can just Fake Out plus Water Spout, you know, go for a Water-type attack onto Pheromosa. I don't mind protecting on turn 1 here. And if they have Hypnosis, so be it. I can never one-shot the Celesteela turn 1 here anyway, so I'd rather just protect and max Overgrowth Kyogre. If we can catch the Kyogre off guard, especially if they go for Fake Out plus Water Spout turn 1 onto the Pheromosa, this would be amazing for us. So, let's see. And Kyogre is actually not, like, the biggest threat from their end. So I think it's smart my opponent led with it here because, like, you're conserving your Dynamax, right? If they led Seismitoad Kyogre and I just overgrowth Seismitoad turn 1 as they Dynamax, it's a complete disaster for them. So I'm mainly worried about a Hypnosis immediately from Gothitelle. Okay, that's also a pretty strong option. They're gonna go for Ally Switch. Now, that's honestly not the end of the world. Like, yeah, Water Spout hurts here, but doesn't really deal, like, that much damage to Assault Vest Celesteela. Yeah, it's fine. Turn 1 Ally Switch is definitely a little cheeky. Then it makes me wonder what they want to go for on turn 2. And, like, would I rather coaching right now? I feel like it's going to be Ally Switch Hypnosis. If I were my opponent here, given that they didn't Fake Out turn 1, I would Water Spout and then just Hypnosis Celesteela. I'm not confident on getting a knockout here onto Gothitelle, though. I do want to go for Speed Swap here, I think. I mean, Speed Swap Overgrowth, if they miss Hypnosis, is like a game-winning play. So I'm down to go for it. If they Ally Switch again, so be it. It's going to be Helping Hand. Now, the thing is, I guess it could be Scarf Ogre. Yeah, so they'll still outspeed us with Speed Swap, but that's actually okay, because, like, now my Celesteela is outspeeding the remainder of your Pokemon going into this next turn. Oh, although I guess they can just bring in Seismitoad. Yeah, that turn 1 Ally Switch was a really good play by them. It's really hard to read into that on the first turn, especially when you're expecting a potential Fake Out from Gothitelle, right? And the interesting thing here is that we don't knock out Kyogre, but this is one of those scenarios where that actually benefits us because it denies them a free switch-in, which is kind of interesting. They're also stalling out their own rain, right? There's only 3 turns left. So Water Spout now is obviously not going to do any damage to Celesteela, still KO Pheromosa. I don't mind sacrificing Pheromosa in this position. I doubt I'll ever get coaching off, but if we do, that'd be kind of rad. And I will Steel Spike into Gothitelle. The problem now is that I've actually taken way too much damage. Okay, Gothitelle protects. So it's Protect, Ally Switch, Helping Hand. Don't really know what the last attack will be. But here's the cool thing. Now I bring in my Ditto to copy your Kyogre. I'm going to end up having 2 Kyogres in this game, which is kind of funny. And in this situation, I didn't want to knock out the Kyogre because I want the free switch in, right? Into Ditto, and I want to intentionally copy their Kyogre. So it's a good example of not taking a knockout that you obviously have in front of you. Right now, Kyogre, we know, is Choice Scarf, given that it outsped us earlier. So by keeping the Kyogre out, this next turn, basically, I have a very free play of just doubling up into that spot with a Water Spout. The question is, do I want to read into it switching out? I think if you're my opponent, you should just sacrifice Kyogre. But that's what makes this endgame slightly more interesting as well. If you sacrifice Kyogre, then if you have Seismitoad in the back, you can't get Rain up easily for it. So what do I think my opponent's final Pokemon are going to be? I think Rillaboom Seismitoad makes the most sense to me by far. That would be pretty scary. If that is the case and you're my opponent right now, you should just sacrifice both Pokemon. Rillaboom Seismitoad probably allows them to win the game. I'm going to Water Spout here. And that ever worth reading into a switch out? Kyogre switching out. Yeah, I'm fine with going for a Seed Bomb here. Okay, yeah, they're just going to give up both Pokemon. Unless Celesteela feints to Water Spout here, which I wouldn't count on. And unfortunately, they do win the speed tie. We don't feint, but the problem is now I go up 3-2. I don't love getting crit there, but it happens. The Seed Bomb there was just to cover. Like, if they get careless and switch in Seismitoad and give up their max option, that's obviously huge for us. Oh, you know what's interesting here, though? Like, if Water Spell doesn't get the knockout on a Gothitelle, that actually benefits us because it prevents you from getting 2 Pokemon in for free. So, in that position, especially because my Celesteela did have the speed swap, it was probably better to intentionally go for a Scald to not knock out Gothitelle, thus denying them 2 free switch-ins. The problem is, now that I KO'd both Pokemon, you can just bring in your final 2 Pokemon. I think it's Seismitoad, Rillaboom, but if it's Marowak, that would be a very good sight. Like, Seismitoad, Marowak would be amazing for us here. And I think that's actually the case. Oh, interesting. Okay. Because it's the last turn of rain here. I think it's fine. What's my final Pokemon? It's Kyogre, which is obviously really good against Marowak. So I think it's fine here. I'm obviously locked into Water Spout. Do I want to switch this out? I don't love that idea. I'm thinking we just Water Spout here and Seed Bomb. The fact that he didn't bring Rillaboom here is huge and gives us a fighting chance. I think if it were Rillaboom, this game would actually probably be over already. Now the awkward thing is, you know what it was? If I switched in my Kyogre this turn, then it means I don't set up the rain again for them. The problem is that might be the case right now. Okay, what did they go for? Okay, that Protect is obvious. So I'd assume you'd try to KO the Celesteela here, otherwise you just feint to a Seed Bomb. Oh, we just outspeed! Oh my goodness, no way. And they Geyser, that's game over. The speed swap is so good. I always forget like just how fast Pheromosa is. And you know, it's like one of those Pokemon that like is in that super fast speed tier range, right? But like Gieleki is the Pokemon that I'm used to, right? Being like just super fast and just like outspeeds everything, even if they have like Tailwind up or you know +2 speed from like their ability. Yeah, so I didn't even think that would be a possibility. In my head, I was like, okay, well the thing here is if you don't protect Marowak, maybe you target Kyogre, but then I just get a Seed Bomb off. The other question is what moveset they had on their Seismitoad. And actually, I also just realized that I brought Kyogre out over Ditto earlier. I was talking about how I was going to use the Ditto to copy their Kyogre. That was my intention, but I had actually switched Kyogre instead, which is, I should have realized. Doesn't make a difference here in the end. But it actually would have cost me the game if I weren't faster there. So, yeah, I should have always just double-checked who I was actually switching in. That's kind of funny. Yeah, the idea was to bring out Marowak, copy them, and then have 2 Kyogres out. Because the problem there is if we don't outspeed the Celesteela, or if we don't outspeed the Seismitoad and they knock us out, then Marowak comes out. Although, actually, maybe that's fine. Because the thing is, then you don't have the rain up, and then so I can always guarantee a knockout onto your Marowak, right? And then just Scald your Seismitoad. So I actually think we would have been probably fine anyway, actually, especially because this Kyogre is max HP, max special attack. And if you have max Overgrowth and activate our weakness policy, then my Scald does more damage as well. But yeah, that's just funny. I thought I brought Ditto out to copy their Kyogre. He didn't even realize I'd brought my own Kyogre out. But either way, Celesteela once again just shows off how strong it can be. And turn 1 didn't really play out super well for us, right? But the thing is, a Pokemon like Gothitelle does no damage unless it's running Foul Play. And even with Foul Play, it's not that scary. So the main thing is that you're only really fully enabling your partner, right? And that's why it would have been interesting to have clicked Scald instead onto the Gothitelle slot. And by the way, like, yeah, you can obviously tell, one, you know, the transform didn't happen, and also when you copy, all your moves are only 5 PP, so it's just kind of funny to think about. But either way, let's look for one final one. All right, last one of the day, and it is Calyrex Shadow Rider Hyper Offense. This one's definitely scary. Mainly because of Tailwind. The problem is that this team really likes to get the speed swap off so that Celesteela just outspeeds everything. But with Tailwind, they can just negate any, you know, of the boosts I have. Man, it would be so interesting to bring Scarf Ditto to try to copy their Tailwind. But like if I lead Ditto and I copies like Calyrex, that's just really bad for us. Now the upside is that we have Assault Vest and I have protection with Kyogre from the fire type damage. So it might still be appropriate to just go with Pheromosa and Celesteela. I just think if there's any time to bring a Ditto, it is, or sorry, Amoonguss, it's here. Because like if we just put one Pokemon to sleep, it really stops them. Whimsicott Calyrex as a lead makes a ton of sense to me. Whimsicott Calyrex, how do I beat that? Can't really one-shot Calyrex. I can always just expanding force my Amoonguss. This does not look like a good matchup. I don't know. Pheromosa, Celesteela, Kyogre. I'm bringing Amoonguss over Ditto in this one because, like, the main value of Ditto is having the Choice Scarf to outspeed your opponent, like copy what they have and outspeed them. But if my opponent just sets up Tailwind in this game, then the Ditto is just going to get outsped by everything, right? So it's like whatever I copy, I'm just going to get KO'd by. Now, if they didn't have Whimsicott, it would be such a good bring here, but I would always Tailwind if I were my opponent. Yeah, and they go Whimsicott-Aleki. Okay. This is actually a really good lead, because it would have covered for my Amoonguss, right? I can't really Spore you. Okay, if I'm my opponent, I would just, like, even Helping Hand Max Lightning. And then I expect Indeedee plus Calyrex to be their final two. That makes the most sense to me. If that's the case, I do have Kyogre in the back. Like, I almost want to just go for a coaching turn one on a Celesteela. We should survive Max Lightning thanks to Assault Vest and us being max HP. So just coaching and Max Quake turn one. This isn't a good matchup, so we're not going to have, like, a really safe path to victory here. And the main reason it's not a good matchup is because they have Tailwind. Now, if they don't have Tailwind, like, I can still maybe take advantage of coaching. Oh, they're not maxing Aleki, though. Okay, I don't mind that, then. Unless you're Eject Button here on Whimsicott. Eject Button would be a disaster, I think. Because if I don't have a Dynamax to play towards in this game, I think it's very hard to win. Now, this can be a big deal, because if you're not going for a Max Lightning and actually one-shot your Regieleki, not only does it give me a special defense boost, but it also means you can't set up Electric Terrain, meaning I can Spore you with the Amoonguss potentially in the back. Wow. It was Life Orb Physical Wild Charge Regieleki. I did not see that one coming. Okay. And they did not even Tailwind. Oh. Not Tailwind, they were smart, but if I had actually doubled up on a Whimsicott, actually it still wouldn't even be that good, right? Because like I'm still getting outsped. If I had max Airstream, the best play here would have been like Ice Beam, Airstream, Whimsicott turn one, but that's just a great play by them. I mean, I also just did not expect a Life or Wild Charge Regieleki. Super cool. It just gave me a special defense boost though, and with the Assault Vest, I'm actually not sure like your remaining Pokemon can actually handle Celesteela, even though you did like 60% of damage to it. I think it's actually still maybe okay. So let's see what they bring out. Because I'm at +2 attack, +1 defense, +1 special defense, and it's just Calyrex Shadow Rider. Okay. No, you haven't Tailwinded yet. Astral Barrage is going to hurt. Well, it's not the end of the world. I don't want to give them a free boost here, I think, so I'd rather just protect with Pheromosa. If I'm my opponent, I'm just Tailwinding, right? And going for Astral Barrage. Actually, then the question is, do you Astral Barrage or do you Dynamax? Actually makes more sense to max. Also, like, where's the Focus Sash on this team? It's so frequently on Calyrex these days. Okay, I almost want to go for coaching here. And Rockfall. The idea is if you Dynamax the Calyrex, you can only knock out one Pokemon at a time. And if you don't Dynamax, alright. Yeah, Rockfall should get the KO here. I missed an opportunity to Speed Swap, though. But Astral Barrage should not KO us with the Special Defense AV. Okay. Although now it's like, maybe I could have protected Pheromosa. Although I don't mind not protecting there because this grants me a free switch-in. I'm assuming you're sashed here on Calyrex, which is why I went for Rockfall. Now, the big question is, what is your final Pokemon? If you're playing it this way, is that not sashed either? Interesting. Okay. What is the item on it then? Could be a choice item, but it wasn't Scarf. Could be Spell Tag. A Resist Berry. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I just didn't expect to take so much damage from... I mean, I just didn't expect Wild Charge, right? But I think if their last Pokemon is Cinderace, I can just bring in Amoonguss, switch Celesteela out into Kyogre, Spore Cinderace, and win the game off that. What is it? It's Urshifu. And it's Water Urshifu. Oh, wow. Okay. Well... what's stopping me from just going for Rage Powder here? Rage Powder, and then just max Steel Spike into Whimsicott? Well, I also have max Overgrowth here, I suppose. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Unless your Goggles here, this should just win us the game. This is an example of my opponent not, like, really... like, I think they should have just Dynamax Regieleki on turn 1, because now you're just stuck with, like, no great max options. Okay, they taunt, cool. Yep, no reason to go for a Spore there when we have to cover for taunt. Urshifu didn't protect, so unless they're safety goggles, that's game over. Nice. I don't think it's goggles here. Just wondering where the Sash was on this team if it wasn't Calyrex. And it makes sense for my opponent to not have Dynamax. I think their best bet would have been to Dynamax Calyrex and just Helping Hand Phantasm and hope that KOs my Celesteela. I think it actually would have picked up the KO. And if you pick up the knockout there, then you just win the game. But now Max Overgrowth just one-shots the Urshifu. And even if you had Max there, we'd still get the KO. So... that's not sashed either, so it's on the Whimsicott. That's the interesting thing about running a team with Whimsicott, Urshifu, Regieleki, and Calyrex, right? Those are all Pokemon that want to run a Focus Sash, and you can obviously only dedicate Sash to one of the members. So this gives us another boost, and Celesteela just chains these KOs so quickly. And I think if my opponent had just Dynamax Regieleki turn 1 and gone for Max Lightning on a Celesteela, especially because it was Physical Eleki, well... I guess it's interesting to think about, right? Because I would have still one-shot Regieleki. The question is whether or not Max Lightning, or they could have actually gone Helping Hand Physical Max Lightning, and I think that probably one-shots my Celesteela, and I would have not expected that. So that was probably just their best play. Just Pollen Puff here, Iron Head. We'll always win the game with Kyogre in the back. Whimsicott obviously can't do enough damage here. So yeah, I mean, this game really highlighted how good Physical Celesteela is. And I'm really impressed by it. It's not a set that I had even run into or gone, like, tried at all, I feel like, in Series 11 or back in Series 9 or Series 8. So it's really fun specifically with Pheromosa because Pheromosa covers for so many of the things that otherwise, like, don't allow Celesteela to succeed, right? The problem is a lot of the time Celesteela, it's too slow, right? And it doesn't get knockouts quickly enough. But the thing with Pheromosa is just a single coaching boost allows it to take it to the next level. And if you can get a knockout with Celesteela on like turn 1, then it just snowballs so quickly because immediately you get, you know, the coaching boost, you get the boost from a max move and the potential beast boost, right? So that's like 4 potential stat boosts all in one turn. That is really unexpected. And then turn 2, you can just give yourself the speed boost via coaching and then allow Celesteela to outspeed everything as well. So today's matchup, it wasn't the best for Entei because we didn't really run into too many like Zacians. I think if we saw more Zacians, I mean, I guess the first game did have a Zacian on their team comp, but it felt like, yeah, it was just a lot better to play towards the Celesteela. But Entei, of course, can be very good, especially into Zacian teams, into Sun teams as well. And then, yeah, still laughing about game 2, thinking that my Ditto had copied their Kyogre, but I had actually just brought my own Kyogre out. So, yeah, this is a really fun team, though. One in which I think very suited, especially for best of 1 play. And the element of surprise with this physical Celesteela is just absolutely incredible. So, yeah, thanks so much as always for watching. Details for the team are in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll catch you all later. All right, peace.